But Ruixiang! Woo! Woo Ruixiang! I call her Rui and Woo interchangeably, so I'm sorry, I'll do that a lot. But yeah, she's one of the de facto hyper zoners, as I call it, because she's not only traditional fireball zoning, but also control, what I call control zoning. Space control. So doing both these things together basically forces people it forces people to be precise about how they approach. So that's half of what you're doing, honestly, when you're in this like full screen, 3/4 screen range. Control space, get a feel for people's tendencies, and then once you're in the mid-range, you should not be zoning, because it's way too risky. Actually, there's a lot of matchups where even zoning at all is risky. But as a general rule, once you're in this range, actually, for some characters it's even further away. But a general rule is if someone can do a jump in at you, stop zoning. Yeah. Well, it's like a combination, because again, it's fireball zoning and space control. And a lot of what you should be doing is taking mental note of what people are doing to try to approach, and making the decision to either reposition yourself to keep zoning or move forward to aggress. When you're stuck in the mid-range, she's not great. She definitely has zoner buttons with decent range but are really slow. So you really only want to be poking with stuff like this if you're kind of hoping to catch a dash from further away. Actually, no, yeah, that's really it. If you're trying to catch approach from like a distance when you're in the mid-range. But the only time you really should be pushing buttons with this character is when you're closer. Pretty darn good. Lights. This is your interrupt pressure and sometimes even anti-air button. Standing light, pretty darn good, honestly. Crouching light is really just for the times where you don't want to get low profiled. Like if someone's running at you, or not necessarily running at you. Like if someone's going to retaliate in close range with like low kicks or like a dash attack, like a dashing low. That's really the main time you're ever going to want to use this. And when you don't want to get deflected, use her kicks. Her 2D crouching kick should be your main thing that you use when you're not point blank, because proximity, her point blank stuff is actually pretty good. Close light is very fast and even on block, so naturally good for tick throws and yada yada. But when you're not in proximity, your kick should be the main things that you mash with. Crouching kick is your fastest, non-deflectable option with pretty good range. And standing kick is your good poke for stopping retaliation, just like with standing light, but also ending up-close pressure. Because, just like how I said, her close lights are really good because it's even on block. Her standing kick is only -3. So it's a safe way to end your mashing. And then see what people mash with, possibly get a deflect at a, like to stop people if they mash with a weapon normal. So that's the general summary of how to use her normals. Don't want to be pushing buttons a lot in the mid-range, unless you're trying to react to like a dash or something. You want to be closer. If you're not zoning, you really should just be up close-ish. that shouldn't be your main goal. But if you have to choose between hanging around in the mid-range and hanging around up close, she's technically a little bit better up close. Still gets bullied by a majority of characters, but those are your general options. Pretty good lights for interrupting pressure. Use your kicks when you don't want to get deflected, and use standing kick to end your pressure if you want to be barely minus. Before I get into like setup stuff, when it comes to pressure, there's 3 things you can try to cycle. Whenever you do a recoil, you can try ending with this. Her 214A, of course, circle back light. This is only -9, so a lot of people will struggle to punish this. And depending on who you're facing, they probably can't punish this, especially if you space it well. So this is actually a good thing to like recoil with and test what people will do. So in pressure, that's the first thing you want to do. Maybe end with that, see if people can punish you properly. And if they can't punish you, then they're going to commit to something unsafe probably. Second thing, her overhead. 19 frames if I remember correctly. It's one of the fastest in the game. And I forgot how fast she goes airborne, but it's an overhead that goes airborne at some point. So this can be pretty good to just cycle in your pressure. Especially, well, sorry. You use that in combination with this. One of my favorite moves with her, incredibly risky, but is a really good low. So once you get people scared of this low, like say there's a trap here, they're sitting there blocking, and you hit them with the overhead. So both of those things together, cycle high low. Yeah, basic pressure stuff. The third thing, which is the even more high risk, high reward thing, is the trap. Since this is basically one massive reaction check, sometimes in the midst of pressure, you want to just try slipping these in. Because not only can you build up guard damage if people are like scared and doing nothing, but this is plus 15 on block. So trap into trap is very greedy. There's a giant gap there. I think trap has 53 frames startup. But the point is, when people are scared, try to slip this in. Be plus, and then once you're that plus, you can start doing like strike throw or other things. 2C, it's definitely double digits. Let's take a look. See. I think it's at least minus 15. Oh, frick. Let's see. 2C. Yep. Wow. I actually remember that correctly. Minus 15. If you space it a bit, I think that means it could be minus 13. Yeah, sorry. I'm gonna use... I use anime notation by default, but I'll probably interchangeably use the in-game terminology as well. But let me know if I say anything that's confusing at all. But yeah, A, B, C, D is light, medium, heavy kick. Hopefully that makes sense. But yeah, y'all configure. I use this a lot. There's something so satisfying about her sweep. But yes, it's minus 15. So when you space it, most characters can't punish this. Some characters can, and some people just don't realize it. Yeah, anime notation is just good to know in general, especially going between games. But yeah, use this for high-low. And then try and get a little cheeky and sneak in pressure every now and then. Or sneak this in for pressure. Because again, you're stealing your turn, you're getting plus frames, you're adding guard damage, and if people react late, if they try to mash or like dash too late or whatever, they're gonna get hit by this and you get a free confirm. Depending on the circumstances, that's a free SSM. Ooh, Modernism Street? I'm gonna put that on next. Yeah, that's another song that I really like. Oof. Yeah, when it comes to like good sweeps like this, usually what you want to be doing is either a low crush, a jump if your character's jump is good enough, or just block it and punish if your character's privileged enough. That's why I say, like, a lot of what she does carries a considerable amount of risk. And basically what you have to be doing is cycling a lot of things. Like, this character, half of what she's doing is conditioning. You have to be cycling things and preying on your opponent's tendencies and fear. Which is why, again, in pressure, one thing you'll want to do is try and sneak in these traps. Especially if you know people are mashers, especially in the mid-range. That's the one thing you can do in the mid-range if you're, like, scared to push buttons. Lay a trap. See how people react, see if you can catch them poking, and then that's a GameStop trade in your favor. So those would be 3 things that I would say to utilize whenever you do need to be on the offensive. End your recoils with this sometimes, see if people can punish. Remember to cycle high-low, and remember to abuse this until people react. By now, 90% of top players know how to deal with this. But, as they say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Do stuff till it stops working. So, before getting into like the fancy schmancy stuff, I figured I'd go over like the basics of the character. Be mindful of your positioning, try to zone, try to get an idea for how people want to approach. When you're in the mid-range, stop zoning. It's not worth the risk. Unless, again, you're trying to call out a hard commitment on your opponent. And when you're up close, do those different options. Yes. Which, again, that's part of what she does. And that's part of why she checks so many of my boxes and why she's so satisfying for me, is because I'm that kind of player. I'm rather methodical and strategizing based off of tendencies and what can be optimal in a situation while trying to mitigate risk. And naturally, she does that because once this is down, it's extremely matchup dependent. But once a trap is involved, it completely can change what your opponent is able to do or what they want to do. And she's one of the best characters in the game at capitalizing off of people doing stupid stuff. Neat segue into the fancy stuff. So, first thing, that edge case of being in the mid-range. Sometimes you'll have a trap down, and in the moment where you might consider resetting it, you do have to be mindful of the timing, because the mid-range against good players is where people know to just run at you. Because again, this is very high startup. So you actually are supposed to be very mindful of this. But if people aren't ready, that can be risky for them. So what you can do is, in moments of hesitation, if they aren't ready, set the trap down, see what they do. If they're the kind to poke over the trap, that gives you opportunities to get a deflect, to if they are hesitant some more, and they're chilling there, you run up and grab them. Which, if you get run up, get a grab. Lowity blah, set up your Oki. Bazinga, nice. More on Oki in a second. But in the situations where you get, like, a nice deflect, like this situation here, getting a deflect, you run up, crouching heavy into trap. That is one of the most rewarding situations that, depending on the matchup, can be, I wouldn't say easy to set up, but it's a situation that would immediately command respect. Because some characters might get away with poking over the trap, like, from a safer distance. In fact, actually, Amakusa is probably a bad example, because Amakusa can poke you from, like, way out here. But that's just something that you can keep in mind in your bag. Probably seen me do it various times. Where if I can get someone to poke over a trap here, pulling someone into the trap is one of the most rewarding punishes you can get on people. Which leads to corner stuff. This is another situation that you probably see me set up a lot. Yeah, because when you deflect somebody... Oh, frick. Hold up. When you deflect somebody, you are at most plus 50 something. So you'll never have time to deflect somebody, set a trap, and then run up and do crouching heavy. When you deflect, you gotta do one or the other. Which... I don't know how it's set it up, but I think if you get, like, a deflect on, like, the last frame possible, maybe you can combo into trap. But your two defaults... which slash was it pulled? This is her close crouching heavy. Close 2C. This is your main big punish when you're not setting a trap or going straight to SSM. So when you get a deflect on somebody... Oh, frick. Sorry. When you get a deflect on somebody... your main default should be either to run up and get a close crouching heavy. That's like... Oh, if I could not suck at the link. That's like one of your main defaults. Otherwise... frick. Nope, too far. Otherwise, if you are close enough, you should go for SSM. If I... Good lord. Frick. I should have recorded something better. Oh, see, even that was too far away. The point is, if you're too far away to go straight for SSM, usually you should have time to just dash up, stop, close heavy, close crouching heavy. And as you guys have probably seen, this is your link combo. You gotta do close crouching heavy into close crouching medium. Let me put on Modernism Street. Now, the thing about links in this game, there is an infinite buffer in this game. So, technically, you could just mash close medium to make sure you get it. But the thing about the infinite buffer is if you mess up your timing mashing for even even a couple frames, you can ruin the input. It probably happens more online because play online possibly really does drop your inputs. I personally try to manually time this. I look for when she's about to catch the shield, and I press it. because there have been too many times where, see, I tried to mash it there and I freaking missed it. And then, yeah, like Disoriuna said, all of her mediums actually are cancelable. And so close medium gives you your combo into everything, actually. Well, except that pushes too far. But yeah. So, the Link combo. Close, crouching heavy. Close, crouching medium. Cancel into your ender of choice. I think I updated the wiki to give details on, like, optimization with her, like, combos or whatever. But basically, the general rule should be, if you're comboing from something further away, go into medium ice ball, or circle forward medium. In fact, when it comes to her far close medium, that's your only option, and that actually is inconsistent. It only works if you're, like, not too far away. Yeah, it's exactly as you said. It's a question of damage versus Oki, setting up whatever you're going to set up on your opponent's wake up. So, to summarize, you can do the ice ball when they're further away, or to get a hard to blockable. Let me set them to roll in. Medium ice ball is a good... Yo, howdy. Medium ice ball is a good ender because... Well, if you're not too close. For further away confirms, medium ice ball is good because if they roll in... Unblockable, or hard to blockable. There's like a very tiny window where you can block the low and then the high. But just assume that if someone rolls into this, as long as you time it right, no one's blocking this. And again, as long as the spacing is correct. So, ice ball, you can... Sorry, and that's another aspect of all the setups that she does. All of her knockdowns and what you do... actually, this applies to all set play characters in this game. All set play in this game basically is discouraging your opponent from rolling forward. Because rolling forward is what gives set play characters all of their most grimy setups. So like I said, this into medium trap. In fact, sorry, hopefully you can see my inputs over there. Medium ice ball, medium trap, roll forward, hard to blockable. And then if they roll away, congrats, they just gave you space. There you go. When it comes to the fire, you mainly want to do the medium one mid-screen because that gives you that same setup. Medium fire, medium trap. If you want more damage, you do heavy. And then you probably want to set a light trap right in front of you because you don't have as much time to work with. Or you can just set up nothing and then just get in their face if you want to. Kind of depends on the situation. And then light fire, you really only want to do in the corner. Because as you can tell, it's the least amount of damage, but you recover the fastest. You can set light trap. And actually, that kind of depends on positioning. Yeah. You actually have time to backdash. So again, it's all about positioning yourself and setting up things to cover the possibility of them rolling forward. Because if they roll forward, they're putting themselves in a mix-up, basically. And if they stay in place or roll away, you get your space control for free, and then now they have to figure out how to get in all over again. So hopefully that makes sense. It's damage versus setup, basically. more specifically in the corner, I mainly use light fire if I like panic or if I'm like not quite at the corner, like here. But usually in the corner, you'll just want to do medium ice ball if I didn't suck. Because if you do this and they roll forward, you are super duper plus. You're even more plus than usual. So that's why that ice ball in the corner is my default ender. But I'll do light fire if I like am near the corner or I just was not ready. Hopefully that makes sense. See, that was like, I think that was a decent segue, but I feel like I forgot something. Oh wait, yeah, sorry. To finish off on deflects, oh wait, no, I finished that, right? If you're close enough to SSM, just SSM when you get a deflect. If you're not close enough, dash up, do this. Mysterious Dusk from Lumina? Mysterious Dusk. Oh wait, is it like the sunset at the school stage? Or... Okay, we'll go through the Lumina soundtrack after this. Lumina soundtrack's also really good. So after trap hits... Yeah, like, if you... well actually, 5C... Sort of. So... what you'll see me do by default a lot is close 5C. The late hit, not the early hit. You gotta do it early so that way... You have to do the move early so that way it hits the later part. And that's because it gives you a knockdown. Which lets you set up some good Oki. Whoop! That is an unblockable cross-up. If they roll forward. So, converting off a trap is kind of complicated because there's a lot of variables. There's a lot of things that contribute to it. The timing of when the trap hits, whether or not it was a trade and you got hit by something, whether or not you react fast enough, whether or not you want a different setup. There is actually a lot of different things to consider when a trap does land. But that is the easiest thing. If you're close and can time things properly, make 5C hit late and then set a trap. Excuse me. If you're far away, landing far heavy is really good damage, but it's a reset and it's a neutral. Other things like further away, you can go into dash and kick. You can go into dashing heavy. You can air reset, which I think that leaves you decently plus, actually. So this can actually be good for setting up high-low. If I actually... There we go. Yeah. So, yeah, there's a lot of different things you can do. And the best answer really just depends on what you want to set up. You can do lightning for distance, because it sends them full screen. You can do ice ball if they're too far away. You can do SSM if you're close enough and you react properly. So, the best answer, I don't know if there's really the best answer. I think I outlined different choices on the wiki, but yeah, hopefully that gives you some summary of why you would do each option. But yeah, there's a lot to consider. Wait, can you backdash far heavy? What do you mean? Like, can you backdash after you get hit by far heavy? What do you mean, Lemon? Yeah, and Daniel, I can elaborate on any specifics if you want, but I don't know how to sum up that answer. It depends. Yeah, if you want the very easy default ones, if you're close... I mean, well, okay, this is easier than it looks. I'm just bad. But if you want the easiest choices to start off with, do close heavy, because that gives you a free trap set. If you're farther away, jump heavy. That's two easy things to start with. Wait, trap, backdash, far heavy? Oh, as long as the timing is good, yeah. Oh, actually, am I going too far away? Huh, maybe not. That might put me too far away, actually. Hold on. Wow. I mean, you could just walk back instead. I lied. That was some generous proximity. What the frick? Why is this proximity so generous? What the frick, dude? There we go. Jeez, yeah, you should just walk back. And hopefully, you don't get proximity. If you're going for damage, anyway. Most brutal setup after a trap follow-up. So again, this is a good default because you basically force people to not roll in. Because if they roll in after that, that's a literal unblockable. Or hard to blockable depending on spacing. Like if I'm slightly further away, I think... Yeah, no, that's still mad ambiguous. So, yeah, actually, it's probably a really good default in general. Yeah, well, I wouldn't say worst option because this is, like, the most damaging option. Outside of landing, like, SSM or weapon flip. You'd mainly want to do this if you need, like, round closing damage. Or, like, to get them near death. That would be the main time you'd want to do that. So that's why, like, honestly, every option has its use. And this is why, like, back in the day, when everyone was saying, like, dude, you gotta make sure you SSM every time a trap hits. At first, I did feel bad, like, dang, my reactions suck. But then the more I played the character, I realized, no. There's so many variables that can affect, like, what you do when a trap connects. Especially because of all the setup and, like, conditioning that goes into a trap landing in the first place. Half of what I do with traps is off of trades. Is off of people hitting me, and then they get hit by the trap. Oh, frick, did it freeze? Oh, dang it. Hold on a second. Yeah, dang it. I don't want to have to restart OBS. It's gonna be annoying. But yeah. That's one of the first default things, is doing close heavy off of trap. Because right off the bat, you force people to not roll in. And if they roll in, you get grimy stuff. What else? The other main stuff for trap, aside from, like, obviously just... If you ever hit a trap, like, raw like that, then SSM. Just do it. But The other grimiest stuff is mainly in the corner. Because, again, like I was hinting at earlier, when you're in the corner, you have a much easier time setting up these pull-in situations. Because if you get a grab, if the trap's not too close, frick. If you're not too close and you set it up right, pull them in, free SSM, bam. Or, hold up. That might be too far. Is it too far? Yep, darn. Or, you can do this cool thing. Bam. Bam. Look at all that damage. Yeah. So those are the two best, actually practical trap situations to keep in mind. Is having your opponent cornered and a trap right in front of them. Not right in front of them, but a little bit in front of them. And then, stray trap hits in mid-range. Is her run block property useful? Yes, in like the biggest quotation marks. Oh yeah, you can do high ice also. I just don't remember if you can convert off of it any better. Heck. Sorry, I'll get to the dashing armor in a second. I'm trying to remember if there's even a setup worth doing. Also, is Zamakusa just too thick? Why is he setting off the traps? Yeah, actually, I don't even know if you can get anything from that. But sorry, now you're making me curious. I feel like this is stuff I would have tested before. Frick. You might be able to get a dashing kick there. Maybe. Frick. That's too far, probably. Is it? Yeah. Dang it, Disorion, you got me thinking now. No, it's fine. I'm pretty sure this doesn't work. But now I'm gonna be thinking about it, so I need to check. Yeah, for some reason, you can't freaking land that. But maybe you can jab. Now I'm wondering if that's worth the effort. Yeah, you can jab, air reset. So that's another option. Combo expression. The FGC loves that, right? Oh yeah, but yes, regardless, actually, that is a good thing to bring up. I mean, people probably seen it in the few times I landed in tournament anyway. It's unblockable stuff, but that's one of the many complexities of this character, is your spacing matters. If you are too close, you're not going to be able to get out the E-Sen, but if there's enough distance, bada bing. In the corner, it should work, mostly. E-Sen does have really weird proximity stuff. So... In fact, actually, hold on. Frick. I don't know if I can make it happen, but basically there are times in the corner where an E-Sen can whiff because of the weird proximity detection. Frick. I'm so bad at this stuff. Also, I don't know if Amakusa really is just that wide. This has never been an issue for me before. It's freaking weird. I need to keep that in mind next time I play Healing Vision. Frick! Dang, that's actually kind of hard to do in the corner. You gotta delay it a lot more. Hold on. Frick! You saw me try to press E said, right? I'll come back to that. That might actually be really hard and really situational. Good lord. Also, before I get to the guard point run, actually, we can talk about Wu's guard point in general, so we can dispel any misconceptions about it. Mysterious Dusk. Oh, yeah. That's the name of the stage. Red Sprouted Memories is the name of the song. But yeah, this is the Noel stage. One of the best Lumina songs. But guard point. Ruixiang has 3 moves that give her guard point. Dashing Light. How many frames of guard point? I can't remember. It's a small window. 5 frames of guard point. I forgot if I figured it out mathematically or not, but there are some situations you can set up to where you can fit this in pressure to try and, like, guard point through some stuff. Or guard point through projectiles if you're feeling like stunting on your opponent like that. But yeah, small window. It's something that happens. It can be helpful for retaliation in specific matchups and specific situations. But in general, with her guard point, I want to make this clear. Her guard point is a gimmick. Like, the FGC loves to call things gimmicks and call things fake or whatever. I consider something a gimmick when it is genuinely something that is a knowledge check or straight up unreliable. Again, this is a very small window on a move that's very low reward and honestly considerable risk. So again, the only time you're really gonna try and use this guard point is like in very specific matchups where you need to like try to steal your turn in the mid-range. Like against Bike and crouching medium, for example. Oh, the ads are starting? Frick! Oh, dang it. Yeah, I wasn't looking at the clock and Twitch didn't warn me. Sorry. I mean, I guess in the event that I export this to YouTube, I should still keep talking. Maybe? I don't know. But yeah, her guard point is a gimmick because it's very small windows that you can't really use on reaction. No, yeah, they are. I just wanted to go over a guard point in general, and the reason I mentioned that is because this guard point is... See, I'm even trying to think if there's any other use cases besides, like, 2. Wait. Oh, you're back already? Dang, that was fast. The ads are normally 3 minutes every hour, but cool. The reason I wanted to go over that is because her running guard point doesn't take effect until, like, frame 15 or 16. Something like that. Let's take a look-see. Where is it? Okay, I can't even find it on the wiki. What the frick? There we go. Sorry, I found it. Yeah. No, yeah, I wanted to emphasize that her guard points are gimmicky. They're something that you kind of just hope they happen. They're not really practical to try and use intentionally. Because, again, her dashing light, it's a very small window for, like, minimal reward. Because her dashing light in itself is it's kind of just an advancing attack that exists. It's not comboable, and she's actually minus on hit. And you really just want to like try to frame trap people mainly, maybe. But her running guard point, it starts on frame 15, which means you have to be dashing already. Like the run already has to be like she already has to be in motion, basically. This isn't something you can do like on reaction to like jumps. The very situational times where it actually can work is to call out overheads. And I mean like delayed overheads in pressure. Because the few times where it's accidentally worked out for me really well is when I dash at like an Ukyo or a Yoshitora that does a Tsubame or Botan overhead. If you're already dashing and they do those overheads, you will go through it. In fact, let me see if I can... This should work. Let's see if I can do it, though. Frick, I gotta time it, though. Or maybe not. Does he not go high up enough? Oh, dang. Actually, it might not work against him, because he doesn't go up high enough. Or I wonder if the dash is ending. See, I can't even show it with his overhead, but obviously with like jump attacks, that'll work. Oh wait, I just remembered. There is one other character that it's good against. Funny enough, is Amakusa. Yeah, they're aerial overheads. And supposedly it should work against overheads in general. But I would need to test that to like be sure. But apparently, unless I'm doing it wrong, it doesn't even work against Amakusa's universal overhead. But again, this is another very situational edge case where it actually can be helpful. Is Amakusa's float. Because when you see him go up, you can just dash, and you'll be protected and punish. So this is what I mean, where this isn't something that you like do intentionally, except for like very specific matchups. The only way you're probably using this against jumps in general, on reaction anyway, is against like really slow jumps. Again, like Amakusa, Ukyo, Wanfu. Actually, Wanfu's a bad example, because I don't think you can... Actually, wait a minute. Can you run through Pillar Toss? I forgot if I've ever tried that or not. But again, regardless, the reason I talk about like the practicality of it is because of the startup, it's not something you're doing on reaction except to like slow things. Outside of that, you're doing it as like a call out. I don't know how many times it's happened in tournament, but there have been times against Ghost or even Disorder Unit where I happen to be dashing at them and they do a backdash Tsubame and I armor through it and they bounce off her head. Yeah. And actually, Lemon makes a really good point. If you're facing someone with a slow jump, at that point, you really should just be focused on dashing under them and doing an autocorrect dash attack anyway. The third edge case that came to mind is Galford's overhead crash. And actually, I think from what I remember testing, I don't even know if that's practical to do on reaction. Well, actually, I mean, it technically should be reactable, but I think it depends on, like, the angle. That's from what I remember, anyway. But all this yapping to say, this is a very situational thing. If you happen to be dashing at a Yoshitora right as they jump, and you commit to the dash while they do their jump heavy, yes, you will armor all of those hits. Actually, I lied. You will armor the hits until your dash stops, which then you might get hit anyway. But this goes back to what I said about her guard point is like a very situational, if not usually accidental thing. Hopefully that makes sense. And I didn't even bother going over her third move of guard point is close medium, because this again is also a small window. You might be able to like luckily steal your turn and armor through like up close pressure, but it's not immediate, it's not frame one, and I know this comes off as bias because people know how I feel about proximity moves in general. Proximity moves are whack, but the proximity on Ruixiang's close medium is insanely strict. So if you get the guard point on this, that is straight up luck. I'm gonna keep it a buck. If you get the guard point with this, you got insanely lucky. Do not rely on this. Yeah, especially against slow jumps, your goal usually should be to either get past them or get into their dead zone. In fact, that's the main way you deal with Amakusa jumping at you in this matchup, is you want to get into the dead zone. But, depending on, like, spacing or if you react, like, super late, the guard point may save you. Even though I can't even demonstrate it. Holy frick. I'm getting into his dead zone anyway. This is a bad example. Let me try to react like super duper late. Hold on. There we go. So, yeah. So, that's the situation. Like, if you do a super late reaction, the guard point could save you against slow jumps. You would still need to commit to something to punish that landing. Well, not punish the landing. To hit him before he lands. Apparently that's too slow. Wow. That was too late. That was too late. Dang. See, I can't even hit him. Dang, I can't even hit him. Okay. Actually, if you're reacting this late and you get the guard point, I guess that's kind of pointless because you can't even like do anything fast enough to punish his landing. Crazy. Yo, howdy, Ultra Champ. Getting one and dones in City Wolves? Why are people doing one and dones in City Wolves of all games? Yeah, back jump would definitely probably be better. In fact, actually, well, Healing Vision does this a lot because it is hard to deal with. But even then, like, it saves you from the hit. But, you can't really do anything to punish. You can get in, at least. That's cool. So, yeah. Hopefully that summarizes the use cases. Calling out like aerial overhead type stuff where you can get a good punish for calling it out. Dashing against slow jumps. The guard point is good for saving you like with a late reaction. And you can at least get in. Depending on like the situation, that's good at least. Yeah, outside of that, very situational specific stuff. Like Amakusa's float. Overhead crash from Galford, maybe. That might not even be true. I feel like that's something that I either tested or was supposed to test. Actually, well, maybe it's in my notes here. Let's take a look. Galford. Ooh. Nope, I don't have it noted, so it probably doesn't actually work on reaction. Sorry, I know that was super long-winded, but hopefully that was at least thorough. Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the back jumps, Lemon, because that is something that is relevant to the matchup. Although, yeah, it just depends on the situation, because if you see an Amakusa back jump, you probably might as well just try to snipe them with an ice ball, or just control space again. Just set a trap, and then you're back to doing the zoning game. Or you can try to dash and get into their dead zone. If you dash in a timely manner, you might be able to get into the dead zone in 66C anyway, if you're close enough. Yeah. If you're farther away or late, then yeah, you just commit to the dash and just get in. If your goal is to get in. For me, half the time against Amakusa, my goal ain't even to get in. I'm trying to zone and get him to commit to something. Yeah, the only matches I can think of is Amakusa, Ukyo, Yoshi, kind of. You know, that comes with its own risks. Wanfu, maybe? I feel like Wanfu I maybe haven't tested. Because again, Wanfu's another slow jump where you want to get under and behind him anyway. But part of Wanfu's jump layers is like whether or not he'll do the weapon toss. And actually, you know what? Sorry, now I'm curious. Let's test it. Warden, I think that's 1000% not a reaction thing. That's like a preemptive assumption. Maybe dash out of, if a Warden is already like jump happy, you hold a dash and you hard commit to it. You might guard point something, but I think that jump anyway would still be too fast to actually punish him before he lands. Especially if they're doing jump B. Yeah, he'll already have landed by the time you want to do any kind of attack, I think. So yeah, if we were to actually summarize, the running guard point is a situational thing to keep you safer and potentially be a good punish option or option to get you punishes in specific matchups. But let's see if it works against Wanfu. Oh yeah, I saw Chris Rock pinged earlier today. You played with him? Let's see. Wow. There we go. Oh wait, I'm gonna need to pick that back up. Hold up. So let's do this. Bada bang. Boop. Oh my goodness gracious. Okay. Hold on. Huh. Okay, I'm trying to run through it. And I am getting hit. Does that just not work? Oh my goodness, sorry. Yeah, that just seems to not work. Darn. We've got another one in the mommy biking army. You love to see it. Glad you're having fun. Or glad it was a success, I mean. Yeah, Potemkin, at this point, when you find a Potemkin, you just have to laugh and cope. Potemkin just does stuff at this point. You just have to accept it. But yeah, in fact, I'll go ahead and demonstrate Warden to be sure. Did that answer all the general questions, all the important stuff? Hopefully that was a good summary of at least those basic things. Let me know if you have any other questions. And I can put this on YouTube if y'all feel it would be worth it. Oh my gosh. Okay, I think that dashing light might have been a punish. Or actually, no, it would have been an air reset. Actually, now that I think about it, how did he get hit standing? Am I not combo jumping? Oh my word. Okay. There we go. Alright, so Warden, if you preemptively dash at him, or get hit because we're too close, you can get a dashing light punish maybe. We could try medium. Let's see. Yeah, see? If I'm close, the dash stops and I freaking get hit. Crazy work. Ooh, that might have me his landing. Ow. Okay, that might be meeting his landing, maybe. I'd have to record him blocking after. Actually, you know what? Let's do that. Okay. Oh, nope. That is not a punish at all. Ow. Let me see if I can react. Oh, hold up. Yo, hold on. Maybe I was wrong. I mean, this isn't like replicating a match, but frick, still can't punish. But hey, maybe, I mean, actually, is this even worth the risk? I don't even know if this is worth the risk, to be honest, now that I think about it. Ow. You're better off just trying to air the man. I don't know if this is even worth the risk. Oh, that's funny. Oh, okay, Warden, stop, please. We're gonna keep going with the Illuminator music. Also, sorry, I was busy testing stuff. I might have missed stuff in chat. Block pressure, trap. Yep. Other things. Oh, Lemon. So yeah, you got the frame traps down. That's good. Yeah, in fact, this can be a good general tip, is that against fast jumps, if you don't have a reliable anti-air, you probably just want to be air-to-airing, or doing instant block stance break, if you see that they're doing early jump-ins instead of late jump-ins. See, another reminder, imagine if we got... Also, I just realized if I do put this on YouTube, I haven't had the chat on screen. So, howdy YouTube, you can't see what I'm referring to. Unless I read it, I'm sorry. But yeah, Lemon's giving me another reminder of what we could have had with Biken in this game. We could have had Strive Biken instead of Rev Biken. Would it have been potentially even sillier? Yes. Would it have been cooler? Yes. But alas, they took Rev Biken instead. From air to airing, that's a semi-neat segue. So her anti-airs are extremely matchup dependent. Again, a lot of the times, this is probably your go-to quick reactionary anti-air. Either this, or just air-to-airing with medium or heavy. Actually, well, I mean, all of her aerial buttons, like most characters, each have their use. Light is when you need to be quick, and especially if you're doing like an up-back to like deal with cross-ups. This is like your quick, don't cross me up, or reactionary air-to-air. Medium is when you need a bit more range, and heavy is when you want more damage. Situational stuff. So, there's a good amount of matchups where you should be either air-to-airing or just doing this little fly swatter here. Her other anti-airs, again, I can't emphasize this enough. It greatly depends on the matchup because of the risk. Her other main anti-airs are crouching medium. This is actually pretty decent in some cases. Your counter, pretty good reactionary thing against like predictable jumping, especially on reaction to like slower-ish jumps. Lightning only against slower stuff, because this is a very slow anti-air. This is 18 frames. But this is good against slower jumps or against the double jumpers. No, I lied. It's good against Iroha. Not really good against Yashamaru, but it's good against Iroha. Because you have this variation also that is bigger. And Iroha basically has to jump away from you to avoid it, and then she won't be able to punish you. likely, anyway. And then you have this. A move that I, on record, did consider a dead move. But because of the weird nature of anti-airing in this game, this move is not entirely useless, and it has its very specific uses. Because this is an SNK game, and SNK games are weird, one of the types of anti-airs in this game are low-profile anti-airs. This is actually a pretty good low-profile anti-air against matchups where characters don't have very good jump-ins, like vertical range-wise. So characters like Jubei and Shiki, where all their jump-ins are very horizontal, or characters like Nakaruru and Sogetsu, where their jump heavies don't really go down that much. This is a surprisingly solid anti-air to use on reaction. But, going back to what I said about things being very situational, is you have to consider the risk with all of these options. This is slow, and you are crouching for the start of it. This is a crouching move. This is a crouching move. What all those have in common? You're crouching. When you are crouching against someone jumping at you, if you miss your anti-air, you give them a free jump-in combo. And congrats, you probably lost at minimum a third of your life for trying to anti-air somebody. So this is what I mean by situational. And basically this comes down to what risk you're willing to take. For me, there's a lot of matchups where I'm not doing these anti-airs unless I know it is actually a good matchup to be going for them in. Again, this should only be used against slow jumps. And even then, some characters you can't even use it against because their jump-in options are so big that you won't even be able to reach them. But against characters like Galford, Hanzo, Cham Cham's Demon Flip, that might be it, honestly. You can use this. In fact, this is a really good autopilot thing for when you see Hanzo teleport, because it'll cover the majority of options. But when you go against characters, like I said, that have more horizontal jump-ins, actually, like Warden Jump Medium is a good example. That works. Yo, howdy. Been giving a Woo overview that I may or may not put to YouTube for y'all to view later. Going over the basics of the character and just whatever questions people have. Talking about anti-airs right now. So, the low-profile anti-air or crouching medium, you really should only use against characters that are doing very horizontal jump-ins. Because usually you'll either hit them before they can hit you, or you will make them whiff. Outside of that, which is the majority of other matchups, again, you should just be using your light, air-to-air, or counter, if it's like a really obvious jump-in and you react in time. There's maybe some very specific situations where it can be good to, like, go for a dashing heavy. There's some matchups where you might want to use dashing light as an anti-air and bank on that guard point. I mainly use this as a mid-range anti-air. against like longer range stuff, like Jubei jump-ins or Baiken jump B, jump medium. But outside of that, like I said, slow jumps, lightning, horizontal jump-ins that don't really go that far down. You can use this or this. Outside of that, air to air or this or counter if you can. Which also goes back to what I said about positioning being really important. Part of what you want to be doing in maintaining your positioning is not only for zoning purposes, but also for making yourself be able to react to jumps better. When you stay just outside of someone's mid-range, it makes jump-ins way easier. What's Star Wars for? It makes jump-ins way easier to react to. Oh, wait. Sorry, yeah, quick summary. The default answer is use this air-to-airs or counter if you react and someone doesn't use, like, a obvious jump-in. Against characters like Shiki and Jubei and Nakaruru with jump-ins that don't really go down that much, you can use crouching medium or down forward kick, low profile anti-air. Against really slow stuff, use this. Or against Iroha, use this, and force double jump layers. Hopefully that summarizes it decently. But again, the main reason you have to like consider what's even worth doing is because half of what I said is crouching stuff. And crouching anti-airs by default are one of the riskiest choices in the game. Because when you're wrong or you're late, you take a free jump-in combo. Hopefully that makes sense. Also, wait, Lemon, to go back to what you said, I mean, so Getsu, like I said, for every character in the game, the general rule for air-to-airing applies that when you need something quicker, you should be using your lights or your kicks. Usually you need something quicker, either for back against cross-ups or like a late reaction. And you should be using your medium and heavy for when you need more range. I honestly forgot what Sogetsu's medium, jump medium even looks like. But in general, yeah, use lights for quicker stuff. Use heavies for like a default jump in, probably. Oh, frame traps. I think I mentioned frame traps when Lemon was talking about Guilty Gear, but I did mention earlier how this, you might be able to slip it into potential frame traps. I forgot if I took exact notes on actual, like, situations you can set up yourself, but the main frame trapping stuff to be mindful of, or to try and, like, utilize is, oh, yeah, that's a good point. Which again, like medium and heavy is usually for more range or more damage, but if someone does something faster than you that can reach you, then that's where you have to like decide to do something else. Frame traps. Going back to what I said about Wu's buttons. Standing kick. It is only -3. So this can be a good thing to see what people do next. If someone tries to mash, deflect. If you're further away, like if you space it, someone's probably only gonna be able to reach you with their medium buttons. And from here, you might be able to poke them out of their medium button with your lights. That's a spacing trap, actually, more than a frame trap. Well, spacing traps are frame traps. But yeah, you get the point. So remember, use this when up closer or like spaced to try and like see what people do, and you can try and punish people's tendencies. And again, the thing that I said earlier about using this on recoil, aside from counter, this is your fastest option. Fastest and safest option, I should say. Because actually this is just as fast as lightning, but this is safer. So when it comes to recoil, frame trap stuff, actually, let me get a guard crush. This can be good to interrupt people trying to punish you. Or especially if you get like a far heavy. Well, far heavy, you're too far away. I think that's more of a corner thing. But the point is, mix this in your recoils because you'll either interrupt someone if they're too slow, or you'll be safer if they do nothing. What else does she have? In terms of frame traps, I mean, aside from that, I guess it's just being mindful of situations, because this actually goes for, it's a general rule for all characters in the game, that a lot of stray hits in this game, you're actually slightly minus. But there are some things where you're even on block or slightly plus. For example, Wu's crouching kick. It is even on block. I mean, even on hit. So if this ever hits, actually, yeah, for example, if this hits from like further away, you're even. If someone's light can't reach you, they have to do a medium, and then you can do your light, which is faster, and you'll hit them. Frame trap, spacing trap, whatever. Woo! I can start the lobby at the usual time, like, what is it, 5:30 or 6? When does it usually start? Hopefully I'll still have time to do a bit more matchup labbing stuff. Aside from that, I forgot if there's any other frame trap stuff I've actually engineered. In fact, let me bring up my Wu notes. Let me see. Sorry, I'm looking through my stuff. Okay, and yeah, I can start at like 6. Oh, that was the other thing. Going back to what I said about stray hits usually being like slightly minus, these lights are actually technically minus on hit, if I remember correctly. Yep. -3. -3. 668. Actually, -5. Good lord. So, when it comes to these stray hits, usually either you're going to do nothing to see what they're going to do in retaliation, and then if they do nothing, you get to like do whatever you want, probably get a grab because they hesitated, or you are trying to frame trap and interrupt them, because even though these are minus on hit, they are special cancelable. So, depending on the opponent's tendencies, you may want to, like, mix in canceling into this. You may want to mix in canceling into trap, seeing how people react, because if they push a button here that doesn't combo you or move them out of the way, they'll actually get hit by the trap. So actually, this is why, I don't know how minus this is actually, but this is why this is usually a good default. Oh my gosh. This is usually a default air reset that I'll do whenever I'm not ready to convert or I just want space control. Cancel into trap. This is something that may not technically be a frame trap, but it can cause a favorable trade. Because usually, when you're canceling stray hits into trap, the opponent has to be ready to run up and grab you so they don't get hit by the trap, or they need to just know to not overcommit to something with enough recovery for them to get hit. Alright. Catch you later, dude. So I guess that's the only other thing I can think of when it comes to frame traps. Or at least from stuff that I have noted. Yeah. Sorry. Yep. In fact, this is my default mid-screen heavy punish. In fact, actually, that was a bad example, because I think off of... Oh, wait, no, yeah, I did that wrong. There we go. Yeah, see? Close heavy, close medium, medium fire. Set medium trap, hard to blockable. Bazinga. Again, you can mix up what you combo into depending on the Oki you want to set up. You can do Ice Ball instead to set up this. Unblockable. Again, all of it centered around getting your opponent to not roll in. And then, of course, when you have Rage, you can combo this into Weapon Flip as well. In fact, in case it wasn't already known, this is one of the most damaging punishes in the game. That's actually SSM damage. So even when you're not going into SSM, that can be a crazy good punish to get. Actually, especially if you get like a deflect and then you pull them into the trap and the weapon flip. If I had my macros set. Sorry, that was autopiloted there. Damn. Look at all that. Which is another funny, ironic thing that. Sorry, YouTube ads. It's another funny, ironic thing from like one of my videos a long time ago when Wu got this buff. I didn't think it was that big of a deal, which, I mean, it is kind of situational still, but it's still an insanely good punish option. Her one privilege, if any, is damage. So in situations where you can't get an SSM, where you can't place a trap, if someone does something that's at least minus 18, Or it's a minus 16. It's okay, remember the frame date off the top of my head. Yeah, if anyone does anything that's at least minus 16, you get this big ol' punish. So yeah, keep that in mind. And then again, in the corner, in the event you pull someone into the trap, you can get heavy lightning into, well, I like to try to get crouch heavy for the knockdown and the damage, but if you're too close, you'll get close crouch heavy instead. So a good default actually is just dashing heavy. That's a really good default conversion off of a corner trap. But yeah, those are the big damage conversions. Outside of like tricky unblockable stuff, and I keep using the macro. Or well, I guess even without bursts, something you can be mindful of is the times you have a trap set behind somebody. Think about how you can push them into it. If you get a throw, normally just do dashing light. If it's a throw from further away, dashing medium. If there's a trap and it's just raw, use medium lightning. So I guess that's the third like conversions thing to know from like setups, is being mindful when a trap is behind your opponent and how you're going to push them into it. Close to C, close to B, medium ice ball or medium fire, set trap, unblockable for rolling forward. Yep, that's the main reason to do medium fire mid-screen. Well, if you... Actually, wait a minute. I just realized. Huh, yeah, off of close medium, you want to probably set light trap instead. Again, various little tiny variables that can contribute to what you need to do. But general thing, medium fire, medium trap, unblockable, hard to blockable, technically. Ice ball, light trap, bam. Yeah. Basically, you do light trap instead of medium trap if you start with something close proximity, I believe. Yeah. Yeah. Close 2B combos into everything except light lightning, but then you're never doing that for combo. Crouch medium, you're really only using this for comboing into weapon flip. Because again, this can combo into ice ball, but it's very specific spacing. So you're really only using this for combos. When you have weapon flip, or when you want to try and frame trap with a cancel. Like if you get a stray hit with this, and then you can cancel into trap. See if someone tries to retaliate. I mean, if you do the ice ball and someone tries to dash at you afterwards, that will like hit them. But you want to be careful of that, because if someone blocks ice ball from like this distance, a lot of characters can punish you from blocking an ice ball from this distance. But yeah, again, this is mainly a combo and a weapon flip button. Or an anti-air. This and dashing medium are your other main combo tools. Far medium, you really just want to combo into ice ball. You can combo into heavy fire for damage, but ice ball is your most reliable choice. In fact, will fire combo from max distance? Yeah, still will. But yeah, again, just depends. But dashing medium combos into everything, I'm pretty sure. Never mind, except light. But again, like, combos into basically everything. In fact, dashing medium is probably your main go-to combo from throw. Unless you're worried you'll mess up the dash timing, then just do standing medium. And then you can set up this unblockable on roll-in. But yep. Any other questions? No worries. I'm glad you liked it. Yeah, I might export this to YouTube. Might leave it unlisted, but still put it in the Discord. Or maybe I'll make it public. I don't know. But yeah, glad you found it informative. I've said before, this is probably going to be in my top 3 favorite fighting game waifus of all time. She just checks so many of my boxes. She is a hard character. Well, I still think she's the hardest character in this game to play. Not just mechanically, but tier-wise also. And so if you're picking up this lady, I'm rooting for you. Just know it will be a struggle in some aspects. She has a very chaotic matchup spread, and she's a character that, like I said, really thrives off of conditioning and fear. So she's a character where the better you get and the stronger opponents you play, the more perfect you have to play, basically. Well, then good. But yeah, if this does go on YouTube, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, yada yada.